Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Juventus do the unthinkable and knock Atletico Madrid out of the Champions League, winning at home 3-0. How did they do it? What did Atletico Madrid do wrong? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to break down how Juventus beat Atletico. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're going to break down the first half, see how Juventus approached the game, what issues they encountered, and why Atletico were unable to get things going. And then move to the second half, see how Allegri constantly tinkered his side before Juve were able to knock Diego Simeone's side out of the tournament. But first, let's get to the starting lineups. We look at Juventus more of a 4-3-3. Ronaldo, Mandzukic, Bernardeschi up front. In midfield, they went Matuidi, Pjanic, and Emre Can. Then we move to Atletico Madrid, missing a lot of key players, moving to that 4-4-2 as we expected. Griezmann and Morata up front. Out in the wider areas, they went with Koke and Thomas Lemar. And in midfield, Rodri, and they went with Saul. So now let's get to the first half, see how both sides look to approach the game, and how Juventus were able to go into halftime up 1-0. So let's get into Juventus against Atletico Madrid. We have to look at Atletico Madrid shape, 4-4-2, very narrow, no real surprises there. Juan Fran at left back, Arias at right back. What we end up seeing here was we know that we're going to have Griezmann and Morata sitting in between and Pjanic, which allows the center backs to push forward a bit higher if need be, if they want to be a bit more adventurous. We often saw that from Chiellini in the opening stages or throughout the game, and that meant that Lemar and Koke were tasked with dealing with the forward movement of Spinazzola and of Cancelo. And in midfield, obviously, you want Can against Saul, Matuidi looking to push forward, and that was something that Rodri had to deal with. But when we break it down and look at how both sides really look to approach the game, we have to look at Juventus because there were a lot of key movements that we saw in that opening half. Number one, Emre Can dropping off a bit deeper in more of a deep line role, playing positive passes, breaking up play, but that allowed Joao Cancelo to push forward, who often had to deal with Juan Fran. Bernardeschi did move more central, and he often caused a task for Lemar, who had to drop off deeper. Lemar often didn't really push out to Cancelo, although he was supposed to. And what we ended up seeing was that sometimes Saul had to track to ensure that Bernardeschi didn't find space in those central narrow pockets. What we also have to look at is the fact that Spinazzola was pushing forward and Cristiano Ronaldo was dropping off into deeper positions in that opening half to pick up the ball. We often saw a lot of 2v2s. I don't know if that was intentional to get those combinations or try to find overloads down that left-hand side, but Koke was protecting Arias very well, and that also allowed Matuidi to push forward, who was trying to make runs in between Jimenez and in between Arias, but we did see on occasions Rodri come across to ensure that that threat was dealt with. However, that was kind of how they did line up. They had Mandzukic occupying the two center backs, but this was a bit odd based off the fact that when you really look at the game, from the grand scheme of things in the opening stages, you have to look at the weaknesses that they could exploit. And we're speaking about Juventus here. You have Mandzukic, you have Ronaldo. Mandzukic, renowned for his far post runs over diminutive fullbacks and Ronaldo's aerial threat. You would like to think that they would have both in the box, looking to peel off Arias and looking to peel off Juan Fran to get goal-scoring opportunities. However, that wasn't the case in the opening stages. We did see Ronaldo kind of drift off into deeper positions, and that was kind of how they're going about things. Not much was happening down the right. We often saw diagonals pushed out to Cancelo in those opening stages to go 1v1 with Juan Fran, unable to offer much of an offensive threat that troubled the Atletico backline. However, like I said, Can a bit deeper, Pjanic having time on the ball but not really offering much of a threat, sometimes mostly clipping out balls, diagonal balls into the wider areas, but Juventus's main threat came down the left-hand side. Spinazzola, like I said, in the opening stages, getting by both Koke and Arias and delivering across into the box. That was cleared. Shortly after that, we see him get again, and he's able to get the ball past Arias, and he's able to win the corner with Rodri coming across. That eventually led to the buildup of Juventus's opener. And when we think about that, and we think about how Juve were really trying to go about things, Ronaldo in a deeper position, looking to get the 1v1s with Koke, looking to get the 1v1s with Arias, but unable to really cause much of a threat. So when we look at the build-up to the goal, it kind of goes back to what I was saying initially. Ronaldo at the far post, Mandzukic at the far post. They have the aerial threat. Why wasn't this happening? You see the ball being cleared by Chiellini. Morata does a very good job to hold it up, but he nods it into the path of Bernardeschi, who runs at Koke and locates Ronaldo peeling off Juan Fran, and he clips the ball into Ronaldo, who nods, towers above him and nods his effort into the net. And that was how they went about things earlier on. Shortly after that, you have Ronaldo running at Koke and Arias and poking the ball into Spinazzola in right half space, and he locates Bernardeschi at the far post, but he overhead kicks his effort over the net. And the final opportunity again, we see the ball shifted out to Spinazzola, was able to gain a yard on Koke, and he finds Ronaldo towering over Godin and towering over Juan Fran, but he nods his effort inches wide of the net. You look at Juventus, majority of their threat was down the left-hand side, but the way that they were positioned, like I said, you had Chan dropping off a bit deeper, breaking up play, ensuring that they retained possession, which allowed Cancelo to push forward, Bernardeschi to move a bit narrow, Mandzukic occupying the two center backs, and they were mainly attacking down the left-hand side. Ronaldo, not that effective when he was dropping into deeper positions in that left flank, but he did offer a threat, and he finally went to where he was able to find a weakness in the Atletico backline at the far post. When we looked at Atletico and what they were trying to do, well, they really struggled, because although this was the initial plan, when they were winning those goal kicks and when they were able to clear the ball, Morata was drifting out into the wider areas to kind of tower to back into Emre Can or to back into Cancelo. And initially he did a good job winning aerial duels and winning the ball, but as the game wore on, he struggled to hold up play, he struggled to link play with his teammates, and Atletico were often pushed back and they were dropping off a bit deeper, and it didn't really make sense because when you look at their shape, they didn't really, Juventus don't have a threat that can break in behind. So if they pushed a few yards higher up the pitch, it wouldn't really threaten them, but they dropped off deeper, and that just increased the distance between the midfield bank and the forward line, and they struggled to clear their lines and build play because Morata wasn't holding up the ball. He doesn't chase the ball into the channels like Diego Costa. They struggle in that regard. It also didn't help that Thomas Lemar was struggling on the ball in the earlier stages, giving it away on countless occasions. He looked a bit nervy, but when they were able to sustain possession, we have to give Juventus credit for dropping off into two banks of four, staying very organized, and Atletico were unable to really find an outlet when they were trying to build play and when they were holding possession for sustained periods. And that was a big problem because they had the fullbacks forward, but Matuidi and Bernardeschi did a good job of breaking across to ensure that they were unable to get overloads in wide areas. Thomas Lemar wasn't really doing anything against Cancelo, and where they were able to find joy was down the left-hand side. Two instances where Koke did create chances, but just not able to test Szczesny. We look to one where we have Rodri from a deeper position, and we have Pjanic and Matuidi kind of pushing out to him, and you have here Koke pushing out ahead of Spinazzola, ball played into them to split, and we see Arias run off Matuidi, ball played out to him, Spinazzola has to come across, then Spinazzola and Matuidi split for Koke ahead of Chiellini. He turns, runs that goal, fires his shot over the net. Later on in the half, dying minutes of injury time, heading into halftime, what we end up seeing here is that Koke ends up getting the ball in a deeper position, and what happens is that Spinazzola makes the run to pull out Matuidi. So he pulls out Matuidi, and we don't see anyone else stepping to Koke, and what does he locate is Morata spinning off Bonucci just ahead of Cancelo, the cross into the box, and he nods his effort inches over the net. But that was the best thing that we saw from Atletico Madrid. without the ball, they looked pretty composed prior to Ronaldo's opener. There wasn't really much really troubling them besides threats down the left-hand side. But after Ronaldo's opener, they did push forward. They were able to sustain possession, but unable to test Szczesny. And those were the two moments where they really looked like scoring, if that. So now let's get to the second half, see how Allegri changed the game and his tactics, and how Juve were able to score 2 more goals in the second half. When we look to the second half, the one change that Juventus did make was the positioning of Ronaldo. We saw him more central rather than drifting down the left-hand side, and Juventus immediately responded. This stemming from a poor misplaced crossfield pass that fell to Ronaldo, and he slid the ball out to Spinazzola, who pushed down the left channel and then pulled it back for Pjanic, who slid it to Can. Can is stepped to by Lamar, and he finds Ronaldo in a central position ahead of Saul. Ball bypasses Lamar, and Ronaldo instantly guides it out to Cancelo, who is now approached by Lamar and approached by Juan Fran. The cross into the box is between both Atletico center backs, but it's Ronaldo who gets his head on it and nods it on goal. Jan Oblak does save it, but he pushed it from behind the line out, and goal technology did help the referee make the correct call there, and Juventus were up 2-0. Shortly after that, we see Can slide the ball out wide again to Cancelo. Lamar is pushed out to the ball. It falls to Bernardeschi, breaking into the box, and he misplaces his header and it goes wide. But what we did see there was we saw Ronaldo, we saw Mandzukic, we saw Matuidi, and we saw Bernardeschi breaking into the box. That was a big difference here, and that was very pivotal to what they were trying to do. But this was more about Ronaldo playing a bit more central and offering more of a threat, because Juventus didn't really change what they were doing. Can was still deep. The wing backs were now pushed forward. Matuidi kind of held his position now with Pjanic, and we saw Bernardeschi still moving in central areas. We saw Chiellini on 2 occasions play balls into Ronaldo. The first one led to a Jimenez foul. The second one saw Arias push ahead of him to win the ball, but that was kind of how they were going about it. And we saw both Bonucci and Chiellini try to play long balls into Ronaldo in between those 2 defenders, but Ronaldo was unable to get onto it. Eventually, we did see some changes. We saw Lamar get removed for Correa, and we saw Koke move out to the left-hand side. Correa did offer a bit of a spark in the earlier stages, the first time breaking on the counterattack, but being ruled out for a handball. And shortly after that, we saw him break forward again on the break, cutting in on Chiellini as Arias made an overlapping run, but he cut in and he fired a shot wide of the net. Besides that, Atletico really struggled in the second half, not based off the fact that Juve were pushing them back, because they were able to sustain possession, but when they got into the final third, often misplacing passes, making the wrong decisions, which allowed Juventus to push forward. Juve eventually made changes as well. We saw Dybala replace Spinazzola, which eventually pushed Cancelo to the left, and we had Emre Can still kind of operating from a deeper right position. And when they did have the ball, we saw Cancelo push forward. You had Dybala on the right-hand side. You had Bernardeschi initially looking like he was a right central midfielder, but as the game wore on, he moved to the left and was able to cut centrally. So you had Dybala and you had Bernardeschi moving around, floating in behind Mandzukic and Ronaldo, and they had Cancelo pushing forward, and without the ball, Cancelo dropped off, and you had Bernardeschi and you had Dybala moving out into the wider areas to protect the flanks. But shortly after that, Arias was unable to continue. Vitolo came on, which pushed Saul to left back, Juan Fran to right back, and Koke and Rodri were in central positions. But even then, Atletico were unable to get things going. Moses Kean did come on for Mandzukic, and now it kind of felt more like a 4-2-3-1. It was a 4-4-2 regardless, with Pjanic and Matuidi in more deeper roles. And even then, Juventus struggled to create chances. They were trying to push forward. I do want to say that the tactical change obviously was more adventurous. It allowed them to put more fresher attacking players on the pitch, but this was more about Atletico just simply making mistakes, because when you look at the chances that they do create, a clipped ball over the defense, Jimenez nods it into the path of Moses Kean, was able to break free on goal, and with Godin coming across, he slashes his shot inches wide of the net. The build up to the goal, we see Moses Kean win aerial duel and he nods it into Ronaldo, who slides into Bernardeschi. And what happens there is that he's able to spin Correa and break towards goal before he slips and falls in the box. And then we see the controversy. Was it a penalty? Was it not? The referee awarded it. Ronaldo converted it. And that was how Juve were able to complete the comeback there. When we break down the game as a whole, Atletico's approach did make sense. And you can't really think that Simeone would have changed it regardless of the personnel there, but they weren't executing, they weren't holding the ball, they weren't creating chances. Juve does deserve some credit for the way that they did defend without the ball, but just Atletico Madrid lacking substance, quality, and that bit of cutting edge in the final third, whereas in the first half, down the left-hand side, Juve were threatening. They finally got Ronaldo to move to the far post. He executed, and moving him central did help them forward as Emre Can dropped deeper and the wing-backs did push, or the full-backs did push forward. So this was a much improved performance from Juve in comparison to the first leg. And here, it was just a matter of moments where Ronaldo rose above all odds and he pushed Juve to the final eight. But let me know what you guys think. Can Juventus go on to win the tournament? Are we expecting them to do that? And what about Atletico? Is this an end of an era? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget to upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.